Well, so just saying, we've been working with Books Forward, our JKS Communications, for about 14, 15 years, maybe even longer, here on Big Blend Radio. And we're very excited to have literary publicist Ellen Whitfield. She's a senior publicist of Books Forward. Join us on Big Blend Radio today to talk about book marketing, publicity, but also the company's 20-year success story. 20 years. They've expanded.
Mm.
They have more on their team, more publicists on their team, and they're also doing a really cool giveaway that folks are going to want to know about. So everyone, go check out booksforward.com. But Ellen, welcome to the show. I'm all jumpy today. I'm all like, Ellen's on the show. We've been emailing for years, and now we get to chat. I'm so excited. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me, and I feel the exact same way. I'm so excited I get to talk to Lisa and Nancy tonight. I kind of was like floaty all day, so really excited to be here.
This is so cool because you're in New Orleans, right? You're in music land.
I actually live in Baton Rouge. We have our office in New Orleans that I work out of in non-pandemic times. But yeah, I mean, definitely anytime we have team meetings in New Orleans, that is one of the first things we do is try and figure out where we can go to listen to some live music.
Cool. That's it. We've kicked off our whole 5-day festival, Celebrate the Music and Arts Festival that you're on. You're on day 3 with Johnny Mastro co-hosting, and he's one of the blues musicians out of New Orleans. He's an awesome harp player, and he's been a dear friend of ours for I don't know, the same amount of time we've known Books Forward JKS. So it's like it was so cool to have him on the show. And I was thinking about you, and we were thinking about you too, when we were leaving Natchitoches, Louisiana, coming out here to Tampa. We drove way above you guys, but we still got some of that cool weather you have in Louisiana and Mississippi, that wonderful tropical weather. Yeah, you know about that weather, but it makes for good
sweaty
reading.
Weather.
Sweaty, stormy.
That's one benefit, yes.
So
hey,
tell
it's
us,
very good. I was just going to say it's very good for your complexion.
Yes.
That is one thing. I don't have to moisturize very often because the weather keeps you dewy.
Yes. So, coming from the desert, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Listen, after being in the desert, my complexion's I'm starting to feel younger. I'm just going to say this. But, Ellen, I wanted to ask, what led you into the world of becoming a publicist and then going, okay, I'm going to do literary publicity, not just any publicity. I want to be in the world of books.
Well, I have always been a big reader. I mean, even, growing up, that was like my parents punished me by taking my books away. I would, stay up late reading under the covers with the flashlight, all that stuff. So, I've always been very into reading, but I actually was a copy editor and designer at a newspaper before I worked for Books Forward. But then I had a baby, and weirdly, working nights and weekends and holidays is not super conducive to a newborn child. So I kind of put some feelers out, and I knew the president of our company from our college days at our college newspaper together, and kind of just, reached out to let her know if they ever had any openings. That's obviously books are like my dream, to work with books and to work with authors and help put their books out into the world. And the timing just happened to be right where they had a spot opening up, and it's been a dream come true ever since then.
Oh man, this is awesome. And Books Forward. So tell us about this change from JKS Communications. Julie, I remember, working with Julie a lot, and then Marissa as well. And Marissa's kind of now like at the helm, right? And it seems that you guys 20 years, and this is an expansion, name change. What led the name change?
Yes. So, Julie basically, this was a one woman operation for a while. Julie kind of just started this, and Marissa joined in a little bit after that, and they were JKS for so long, and they built this amazing reputation in the literary community. But we wanted to celebrate our 20-year anniversary this year by kind of rebranding and, making sure that our name represented us a little more solidly, a little more out of the gate, what you're getting. So, we thought of a lot of different things, but Books Forward seemed to really make our message clear right away. We want to elevate authors' voices, and part of our motto is breaking boundaries. And I really think Books Forward encompasses that. So, it was just a 20-year anniversary, and it just happened to be a great time, 2020, 20 years. So we decided to just go for it in January, and it's been a lot of fun just trying to think of new creative things to do to get the word out, and kind of, rebranding on social media. And I mean, you guys know all the stuff that comes along with just doing things as a company. So across the board, just trying to get the word out about all that.
And I think it's important because I'm really glad you're on this show, because Nancy and I talk about this. We meet authors, musicians, and artists, and writers and poets, and it's, you can do your craft and really love it and put everything in it, but it's really important to get it out there. And for some artists and writers, they're like, I really don't care about that. I'm not even going to look at it. I'm just doing it for whatever. So that's fine. But if you want to be successful, you've got to have the readers, right? And I think the online landscape, I think about the 20 years, Books Forward's, been there, how it's changed. We went from being a print magazine, we started in 97 as a print magazine in a region, to now the internet allowing us to be global and do radio and do video and all these things. And I think now, it was so interesting. The book world was, get the traditional publisher, and I know we've had, New York Times bestsellers. We've had, every publisher, major publisher we've worked with over the years. But I think that you have to even go further than that. Whether we have self-publishing now, that's beyond vanity press, right? We've got the internet, but you can't even if you're published through Penguin or something like that, you still need to continue on, because it seems like those big publishers, if you get a month worth of press, that's it. You're done. You have to kind of keep going, right? And before, during, and after. It seems like we've got the tools, and you really need to utilize them. And it's just not a one-hit wonder kind of deal.
Right. It's so tough, and there are positives and negatives, as anyone in any industry can tell you, that have come with the advent of the internet and social media, and that applies to book publishing as well. There's a lot of different ways now that didn't exist before to get your story out into the world, but that means there's also a lot more competition. So that's one thing we try to do is, we make sure that every single publicity campaign that we work on is tailored to that author and that book. So, we spend a lot of time, months and months and months before a book even comes out, thinking about, okay, how can we make this stand out? Whether it's traditionally published, self-published, indie published, whatever avenue it is, we want to know what that author's definition of success is and do our best to help them meet that. Because, there's some people want to sell 100,000 copies. Some people want to build, start from the ground level and just build their author profile. They plan to do this for decades, so they want to do it the right way. Some people know they're just going to write one book, so they're putting all their effort into this. So that's just something that we have learned and grown and really tried to make sure that we're focused on is, what can we do for this author and this book to make it work for them and to help them reach their goals.
And go ahead. I was going to say, I think that's really important. Coming from an art, like a painter artist point of view, and having put on art exhibits for different art clubs and shows and things, the painter of the picture has this vision of the painting. And when they finish the painting, then they set it aside. Then comes the big drama step of putting the frame on it, because the frame can kill or enhance a painting if you don't get the right one. Then what are you going to do now? It's in your home. So now has to come the art show. And that is the same as getting your book out there. You got to go somewhere, talk to someone to put the painting forward, and that is not always where the artist's brain is. It's a complete shift from left to right brain, if you want to put it that way, where the creative side is all happy, happy, I did it, I finished, and it's in this kind of whoopee. And then comes reality of, and now what? And that's really hard for a lot of artists, whether it's painting, writing. It's really hard to go from that side of the brain to the other of what I call the reality side. So you can have 100 paintings in your house that you never showed anybody, or you can write a bunch of books and nobody ever read them because you didn't go that other step. And that step's a big one. And I think artists need help there. Artists and writers and performers need that extra, they need that help.
Yeah, when
right.
would you say, go ahead. I was going to say, like, when does a writer need to think about that,
No, I mean, that's a great point. I talked about we try to help authors meet their goals, but they don't always know what those goals are, and that's something we can help authors with early on too. Some do have definite goals and they know what they want and they know what they're looking for, but some are just they've been so focused on writing a book for so long that they're like, okay, I'm done, and I'm like, well, I hate to break it to you, but it's so it's and so many authors are introverted or not, they don't want to do the self promotion, and so that's a big part of what we do too, is kind of helping guide them through that. But yeah, I mean, I think once you have turned in gotten edits on your manuscript, that's when you reach out, because we generally try to start campaigns at least 5 months before their pub date, and we want to have everything in place by then. So, we have not a backlog, but a number of authors in the works that we're trying to set up campaigns for. So, I mean, as soon as you can, as soon as you're finished writing the book, if you're going to be finished soon, that's when you should reach out and start thinking about next steps. And if you use that only to give your brain a break on final edits, I mean, that's fine. That's a way to kind of do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And get excited about the next step in the process as well. So, yeah, I mean, there is quite a bit of lead time that allows us to be as successful as possible when we're publicizing a book, because there's just so much that goes into it, and you want that launch day to be as successful as possible. So the more time you can give a publicist for that, the better.
Yeah, and because they have to read it. They have to read, and it's usually like the advanced copy, like the galley copy, like what we get. And so there's always going to be some errors and stuff like that. So when you get that, But it's when you move forward with that, you're just getting like, oh, wow, there's like this whole other thing that they went down, so we could build it over here. And I think it's important to have a company work with you because you have the contacts over the years that you've built. That's what I think is important. You us,
right.
like, hey, they're not gonna do this kind of book, you know what I mean? But I'm sorry, but here's
exactly, yeah.
You
and that's
built
one of the
connection.
nice things. Yeah, I mean, and before pre-pandemic times, I used to do a lot of events representing the company, and I can't tell you how many times I go to events and they say, oh, you're with JKS or you're with Books Forward. Julie's the best. And I mean, she just has Julie, Marissa, the whole company has just simply done the work, put in the work. And I mean, I have learned so much from both of them. I love books, but they have taught me how to productively love books and love authors, and just basically be so enthusiastic about them that you transfer that enthusiasm to everybody you talk to about that book. And that's one of the most useful tools. But I mean, it really does help you. Like we said, we've been around for 20 years and we have those contacts. So that's what you're getting when you hire a publicity company, or when you hire Books Forward, you're getting not only, our brainstorming, our expertise, but like our contacts that we will put in place to work for you, basically, and work for your book.
Right. because we build relationships. Like, you and I built relationships. I'm going, hey man, we're on this bit, like we're on this crazy trip here, like help, or whatever, what's going on
Exactly. Yeah.
with
No, I mean, I
anything.
communicate with exactly. I communicate with one of our ad reps that we deal with a lot. She lives in Australia, and she sent me, a picture of her kids on Halloween. I sent her, my kid all dressed up and stuff. So it's, it's been such a pleasure to work at a job that I love for so long, because you get to build those relationships, and you get to, be excited with people about these new books that they're going to love, and it's just really, it's one of my favorite parts of the job.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the authors that you do represent, because, having had gazillions of them on our shows over the years and even met some of them in person, I wanted to ask, like, what is that process of going, okay, we'll represent this? Because honestly, I don't think, I mean, really, you're representing good authors, whether or not they're self-published or not. In the beginning of self-publishing, it kind of was a rough, rocky road. We're way ahead now, right? I think, there's systems there's things, there's tools, there's editors out there, there's book cover specialists, and, so all of that has changed from the beginning of self-publishing, which, I pretty much got to this point of, if you're pitching me as an author on your own, it's pretty much not going to happen, because I have to invest my time in checking out your book to see if we're going to put you on a show, which means that huge amount of time, I don't have that time. You're not paying me, and I ain't going to do that anymore. There's a line. It's like one thing with musicians, you can listen to a song. That's 3 minutes. But a book is a book. And we all know the first chapter is always the best. The first few pages is always the best. Well, let's fast forward through the book, and how far is it? And that's where I think is the biggest thing about literary publicity and marketing is someone's investing their time to read the book. And if it's not good, I mean, you guys put great authors in our laps to promote. And we know we can go through a book. We don't have time to read every single book and every single page, but we already get the gist. We split up our time on it and read, and you have quality authors. So I wanted to touch on that, because I think that's important, that who you're going to put on a show. Yeah.
Yeah. We do get a lot of applications, and we do a lot of work on the front end, and there are, basic criteria of, your book has to be professionally edited, and those kind of things. And timing wise, like we talked about before, it can't be publishing next month or anything like that. And that narrow the field. But, we also want to make sure that we're selecting books that are engaging and have a meaningful message. And that's part of our company. What we try to represent and elevate as a company is, voices from marginalized backgrounds, or something that is timely today, or, relevant to the larger conversation going on in the country and worldwide. So, whether that's a woman's perspective, I'm sorry, something about, racial equality, if there's we've had climate change books, things like that. We try to make sure that we're selecting stories that are going to resonate with an audience. And, it may not be a story that will resonate with everybody, but it'll be meaningful to a community. And that's what we really, really want to try to elevate and promote.
Yeah. And I think that it stems from Julie too. Julie's always been,
absolutely.
I mean, she comes from a nonprofit background, and then she's like, well, this is, your education is key. And that's what books do. They either create an escape kind of entertainment, but there's education that goes with the book. And it makes people feel good. I think books, during the COVID pandemic, you guys launched this like helpline to help people use their Kindles. This was so cool. Are you still doing that?
That was fun. Yes, it's still up and running. It's basically, I mean, I was starting to panic and think about all this, I'm an avid ebook reader, and, when my library shut down, I was like, all right, well, I have 8 million books that I haven't read, but also I can check out ebooks from the library. But I know that, it's not the same for everybody. My mom's not sure how to register the app with her library card number and do all that. And I was like, that's something I do every day. We can, all of us at Books Forward, we can help walk people through that process. And we just wanted to make sure it was a resource available for people who need it. So, and I think that's one of the coolest, there are so many negative things about the pandemic that I try to think of the creativity that it's brought about as one of the small silver linings. I mean, it's been crazy to see people just kind of pivot away from what they were doing before. And, that's just what we were trying to do, is say, all right, well, what can we do to help people? And our people are readers. What can we do to help readers, whether those are other authors or, they don't have to be reading our books. I just want to help make sure that you have books to get you through this time, because I know that's what I've needed.
Yeah. Well, I think that, that you're closed in. It's like, okay, you need that escape. You could go to Africa. You could go to any, fantasy land.
Absolutely.
And, I love what you're doing on that. Now, I did want to ask, because I want to touch in on this whole giveaway thing that you're doing. And it's, the deadline to enter is October 1st, 2020 for a PR campaign, full-blown campaign. This is amazing. But reading through that, you talk about creative promotion to indie booksellers and librarians. See, this is something Nancy and I, we got to give a shout out, because Julie, she's like, now girls, I'm sending you on this, we're on our Love Your Parks tour where we travel the country, we document parks, public lands, and share community stories. And she said, well, you're going to do literary stories. I'm like, okay. A little did we know that we were already sitting on some. John Steinbeck was the first one that we did. We didn't know. And we've done all these little authors that made big impacts. The most recent one was Helen Hunt Jackson. And it's amazing who she is. I mean, she wrote Ramona. She stood up for Native American rights over the years. And we actually used to live in the area that she wrote Ramona about. And then next thing you know, here she is in Colorado where we were, and here she is over here. It's like this crazy thing. And we also went to the James Michener Library. We haven't written that yet. You'll get that soon.
That was
in
so
Colorado,
cool.
Greeley, Colorado. And here's his library, like this whole display. They have postcards he wrote to his wife. They have his books. They have letters. They have photos. And he taught there. It's like, whoa. Okay, these literary stories are so cool when you think about it. And that made me think about like libraries. Here we are traveling the country, and I want to start photographing libraries now. I feel like that has to be part of the story we're telling, not just the authors, but the actual libraries, because we're seeing all these historic libraries, like historic courthouses too. We have a law and order thing that we do as well. But I'm starting to realize, like, we've had issues over the years of libraries even being shut down. So where do you think we are with libraries and the importance of them, and will they stay around? Like, we want to fight for our independent bookstores to be there too.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who loves her local library and may be single-handedly keeping them in business, I am confident in saying that libraries will stay around. I mean, there's so much more than just books. I think people who haven't been to the library in years or don't use them regularly don't realize the wealth of resources that the library provides to the community. And so, if you're somebody who hasn't been to the library in years, I encourage you to safely, if your library is open, go online, explore what they do for the community. I mean, we have meetings there, community projects have meetings there. They do things for teens after school. They do things for, youth. There are specific people who coordinate these things for different age groups and different parts of these marginalized communities. And, so much stuff runs through the library. So I want to say that they will be around for endless time to come, and I think that they have a lot of most libraries have just really creative and smart people on their staffs that are doing, what everybody else is doing and pivoting to figure out how to best serve their community right now. So, and that's one thing that we're trying to figure out. Every library has been so different. I know some are just fully open. Some have, like my personal library has like a drive-through option, which I think is so cool. And they're trying to find new ways to do the community projects that they were working on before. Mine has little brown bag pickups that you can do like weekly for your kids. You can just tell them your kids' age groups, and they have little crafts that you can pick up in bags and stuff like that. So they're always going to be relevant, I think. And what we're trying to do is figure out what libraries are open, what are closed, what are partially open, who's doing virtual events, things like that, so that we can work best with them and figure out, how to get our authors in front of those audiences. But they're doing the same thing they always do. They're adding new books to their catalogs and trying to figure out, this book would be perfect for our readers and things like that.
So you work with librarians, and that's interesting because, I love libraries. And we've moved around the country personally and around the world. Our first thing was you set up your home, and the first thing is you find out where your library is. That's it. Go get your library card, And it's something important. And I think, I know we're talking COVID right now, but I also feel like we need to, as individuals, support our libraries so that they stick around. Because eventually we'll be able to go back inside the libraries. But I was going to say, even though we all have Kindles and we can download books on our computers and our Kindles, oh man, I still like the real book.
Yeah. And I know there's pros and cons to that, but as a kid after school, because my parents were always gone, that's where I headed, to the library, and it was always air conditioned, and there was always helpful people, and they showed you how the catalog system worked, and interest you in things that you didn't think you'd be interested in until somebody presented it to you. That's what I got from libraries. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even I was picking up books the other day from the drive-through, and, they had the little window open or whatever, and my toddler was in the back of the car, and she's like, I miss the smell of the library. I was like, oh, yeah, baby, me too. I do, too. Because it's just
it's that old
it's
smell.
That comforting. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just comfort. Yeah. But, I mean, I think that's definitely one of the things that we need to do is continue to support our libraries, and our authors are so great about, knowing that they want to not only get their books into bookstores and sell books, but they want to get the books into the libraries. And that's actually an easy thing that we tell we tell authors to tell their people, tell their contacts to do. If the book isn't in their local library, request it. Most libraries have an online system where you can easily request either the ebook or the audiobook or just the physical book. And, everybody has different criteria for what requests are granted, but showing that interest in the book is never hurts, Yeah.
And for your independent booksellers, too. I know we've got the big Amazons and all that we have, the world is running by, but it's also, it's the same thing for our independent bookstores, and eventually they'll have readings again, and a lot of people are doing virtual readings.
Yeah.
So I know it's been an interesting time, but I think there's a lot of businesses or industries that have been really affected by COVID, but I don't think the book industry has been as bad. I think now is the time.
I think the book community really rallied behind independent bookstores, especially in the first month when there was, panic or what are we going to lose here? I know I made, my husband was wide-eyed at the amount of books that I bought in the first couple months of the pandemic because I was doing my part, but I don't think I was alone. Everybody wants to do what they can because, we realize how important these, libraries, but independent bookstores as well are to our communities. So, I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's really not been as bad as everyone expected it to be. So that's hopeful.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about this giveaway because this is a big deal, man. Like I was reading this,
Yes.
I'm like, no way. So, listen, writers, authors, and get your book done now. Get on it. You've got no excuse, right? So, this is
Yes.
all for authors with your publication dates, your targeted publications dates being between May and December of 2021. So, the
Yes.
entry. So does everyone go to booksforward.com for this? Is that the best place?
Yeah, it's booksforward.com/win. It's also under our Lit Happens tab on the home page. You'll see there's a drop down that says win a free campaign.
I mean, this is big. So it's valued at $20,000. Okay.
Cool.
So if you talk about it, customized press package, and listen, this is a big deal because it's your actual press release, and we deal with your press releases. You don't just put out here's your book synopsis. When you get that, you get interview talking points. You get an actual interview Q&A. You have the time other like all these here's what so and so said about this book, and here's all the accolades, and here's the images and all of that. Now, getting all the images together and even having the author to take a photo, like all of that, right? This is all part of it.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we will be doing a full scale, no holds barred, everything that we offer for this campaign. Like we talked about at the beginning, every campaign is formatted for every author, their budget and their goals and everything. But we're going to be blowing it out for one author, with this free campaign. We wanted to celebrate our name change, celebrate 20 years, and offer a new campaign for somebody who doesn't have the budget, but they have this amazing story that they want to get out in the world, and the world deserves to hear that. And we want to make sure that we do what we can to spread the word about that. So we're giving away one fully funded free campaign to somebody who has, it can be traditionally published, it can be independently published, fiction, nonfiction, really anything that kind of just, like we talked about earlier, it's got a fresh perspective. It helps to elevate, a marginalized voice, something along those lines that not everybody has $20,000 to spend on a book publicity campaign, and we totally understand that. So we want to make sure that we do what we can to help support all authors, and this is one of the things that we're doing to accomplish that goal.
And one of the things go ahead, Nancy.
I was going to say, you're looking for a book that'll make a difference to the world.
Yes, a difference maker. That's a perfect thing that Julie would say.
Yeah. I think that's what's always been cool about you guys. You do a lot of memoirs. Chai, look at Chai's book, talking about immigration stories in this country. And I know we're still working with her on her next one too of our stories, because
that's
we're
awesome.
kind of we're not immigrants, but we are, because we lived outside the country and we were immigrants in other countries. So we have had like this other experience. But when you think about the stories you bring, I think every author that comes on our show, we end up in this crazy in-depth story of, like, it's just going to say August Norman on Sunday. We're talking about cults and religion and stuff that, a lot of people want to hide from, but it's a real thing about what's going on in the world. And it's about, what are people thinking? How are they living their lives? Are people control, power, all of these things. And you guys really always put out great fiction, or let's say bring them to us, great fiction, but there's also gardening, how to garden and have a garden, and, health, and, memoir stories. That I think the memoirs are really important, because it's not you must do this. It's this is what I went through, and people can identify. We've covered, I think, just about everything with you.
I mean, there's the spectrum of authors we have is just run the gamut. It's been pretty amazing, and I'm always excited to see who's coming in next, because it's always a surprise. It's just, that's the coolest thing about books. There's always another story to be told and another perspective to be considered.
Exactly.
I know. I love it. And here's the other thing too. I wanted to bring up on this giveaway. Again, everyone, it ends October 1st. Go to booksforward.com and follow them on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those great places. This Books Forward author guide. Tell us about that.
The author guide. So one of the things that we try to do is we term it industry guidance, but that's just kind of, professional speak for helping authors to make sense of all of the confusing aspects of a book. That's, they know how to write the book, and we know how to bring it to prominence. So our sister company, Books Fluent, works with authors to help them through the publishing side of things, and then we help walk them through things like industry reviews, or what blogs or what bookstagrammers are a good fit, and there's so many choices out there, and it's kind of like, sometimes I compare it to building a house from the ground up. If you go and you look on the internet for all the kinds of tile you can put in your kitchen, you're going to run away screaming, because there's too many options and you're going to get overwhelmed. But if you work with a contractor who knows what they're doing and kind of gets what you're trying to do in your house, they're going to help you narrow down your choices and say, all right, here, A, B, C, D, pick one of these. And so that's kind of one of the things that we can help authors do, is narrow down all the things that are out there and help you focus on where you're going to be most successful and what's the right fit for you.
Oh, I love that. And at the same time, too, do you find authors having to learn that, Nancy talked about that at the very beginning of the segment, was going from the creative aspect into, now I'm going to have to do marketing, like, social media, I don't want to, that the social media thing, I think some authors really jump into it.
It's intimidating.
Yeah. It can be like, I know a lot of artists of all walks of life, right? All genres, and some are just like, you can take it and shove it. I'll put out the product, but I don't want to know anything else. I don't even want to do radio interviews. I don't want to do any of it. And it's like, well, you're going to have to kind of do something somewhere. Yeah.
Right.
So,
and we get that. I mean, I totally get authors who say, I don't want to talk to my friends about the book. I don't want to do social media. And, in some cases that's fine. But in some cases I tell them, well, if your friend wrote a book, wouldn't you want to do what you could to like help them promote it? And wouldn't you want to hear updates about it? And, that's what social media is for. But we also have, a digital marketing division that can handle that kind of social media stuff for the authors. We can look at your social media. We can help you build social media profiles. We can, help you with your website, audit what you have in place, even help you strategize about posting times, content, things like that, to kind of, like we said, help guide you through one of these. I mean, some people, social media is second nature to them. It's not intimidating. They have it, completely in hand. But some people, I mean, they can write a book in a year, and social media is incredibly intimidating to them. So, it's just, that's what, kind of what I talked about at the beginning, depending on every author's needs. Right, exactly. We try to figure out, okay, what do you need? What do you want? And if social media is a big part of those needs, we try to help them with that. That might be a big part of the campaign.
That's awesome. That's awesome, because I think you could be the most brilliant artist, and that's not going to be your bag, and have someone help you. You guys are full service, and it's been a real pleasure really working with you. I think it's been like since like almost the beginning of our magazine, like pretty much. So it's been a real pleasure over the years. I mean, I know it's been like 14, 15 years that we've been interviewing your authors, which is a long time.
That's awesome. And too many more,
I know, and they've all educated us, so that's really cool. So thank you for that. But before you go, Ellen, okay, you could take a walk a 1 hour walk with any author in the world, alive or passed on,
Oh God.
who would it be and where would you take that walk?
Oh, that's a lot
I
of.
didn't tell you I was going to
That's
do
hard.
that.
I know. I feel bamboozled. Honestly, I would probably say Maya Angelou because my daughter's named Maya, and I just think she's an incredible role model and someone that any woman or person can look up to. And I honestly, that might not be the best choice because I may just like freeze up and not say a single word, and that's not really helpful at all. But I think that would be pretty amazing. And gosh, I mean, there are very few places I would not love to take a walk at. I would say maybe Morocco. I have been just like, I don't know why, but I read a book set in Morocco fairly recently, and it seemed, maybe it's because it's so different than my life inside my house right now, and it just seems like that would be a fun place to explore and maybe would spark some conversation to talk to some things I could talk to Maya Angelou about.
I love that. All right. Listen, everybody, keep up with Books Forward. Go to booksforward.com. Thank you so much, Ellen. And I want to go to Morocco too, and I want to meet Maya Angelou.
Please come with. Yes,
let's
please
go to
do.
Yeah, go to the
Open
Medina.
invitation.
I want to do that. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you
I know
so
we will.
much. Yes, that sounds perfect. Yes, I know. I'll talk to you then. Thanks so much, ladies.
Take care.